Hello guys, Crispy here, welcome back to another video. In this one, my friends, I'm going to be testing a GeForce RTX 4060 Ti 8GB model in GTA 5. And by the way, the 16GB will also perform the same because this game won't max out 8GB of VRAM. This one is the Founders Edition model of the card. We are running it with the latest Nvidia drivers and I'm not manually overclocking it. You can see all of its specs right here in Tech Power Up's GPU 0. Accessible bar is also enabled, and again, it's the 8GB GDDR6 version. And over on the left, we're pairing it with a Ryzen 950X 3D CPU with half of its cores disabled, so it's basically the same as a Ryzen 7 7800X 3D, but something like a Ryzen 5 5600X actually won't bottleneck this card in this particular title, so you're fine with that as well. And over on the memory tab, we're using 32GB of DDR5 6000MHz RAM in dual channel. Let's get into it, shall we? Let's go over the settings first. I'm starting at 1080p resolution, and we're also going to test this one at many higher resolutions. And I'm using my custom settings, which is basically very high to ultra settings in this game. The only thing that isn't maxed out here in this menu is the grass quality, which is set to high, and the post effects, which is set to normal. Now, grass quality is very intensive, above high, you know, and you don't really gain much of a benefit by turning it up. And the post effects, in my opinion, look ugly as heck, so I'll leave them on normal. Lastly, on the advanced settings, everything is turned off because they are ultra intensive and there's no real benefit in enabling them unless you have an extremely high-end GPU. And let's play the game now, finally. Okay, so if you've watched any of my GTA 5 videos, you probably already know that the game stutters quite a lot whenever you reach the engine limit of 188 frames per second. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. Lots of stuttering, lowering 1% lows into the single digits, 4 frames per second, 3 frames per second, 1% lows, and this is basically a completely unplayable experience. Again, it's not because of the GPU, it's not because of the PC itself, it's just because when this game came out, no CPU could actually handle it at 188 frames per second. The developers locked it to 188 frames per second, the engine, you know, and whenever you reach that value, it breaks. So if you're reaching the engine limit, what you can do is enable some MSAA settings. I'm gonna try it with 4 times first. This, okay, yeah, it definitely lowers our FPS by a lot. It also improves the image quality, of course. There's much less aliasing going on in the image at the moment. But if you look at the frame rate, it's actually going up to like 170s at times. So that means that it will probably still stutter here and there. Yeah, 178, 182. Whenever the FPS are super high, even if they don't really touch 188, like right here, there still is a possibility of it stuttering, unfortunately. But again, guys, all you need to do to make it playable and not stuttery is lock your frame rate. So be sure to do that to 144 FPS or 120 FPS or something like that. But since this is a benchmark video and I don't want to run around with locked FPS all of the time, I'm just gonna keep increasing the MSAA setting. So let's try it with 8 times MSAA. This is absolutely ridiculously intensive because MSAA is a form of anti-aliasing that's super demanding, of course. And right now, as you can see, we're finally well below 180 or 170 frames per second. So this way we can actually have a comfortable experience. Now, there is an issue with 8 times MSAA. It's nothing major, but in grassy situations, or areas with a lot of grass basically, which again is very intensive in this game, it will likely drop down into the 60s and possibly into the 50s as well. So, again, I myself would probably choose to play at 1080p with these settings, 4 times MSAA, which already looks very crispy and detailed, and with an FPS lock to like 120 or 144. But if I was doing that, I wouldn't really be pushing the 4060 Ti to its limits. So here we go with 8 times instead. So far so good. 120 FPS average with these settings is pretty good. You know, like the 4060 Ti is not really that great of a GPU compared to last generation's 3060 Ti. It's just a very incremental upgrade, you know. But hey, it's still a decent GPU, especially for older games like these, and for newer games as well. It's just a little bit disappointing that it only is like 15% faster or 10% faster than 3060 Ti. Anyway, here we go, guys. This is it. Jack's Hill. Lots of grass around here. Now, if I had the grass quality setting set to Ultra, it would actually dip down into the 50s very often. Right now, it still does. It still does, but it's not too often. So there's that. It's only inside of bushes. Yeah, this is extremely intensive. Look at Jack over there. Or is it Jacqueline, actually? I'm not sure. Guys, it's Jacqueline. Hello, Jacqueline. Yeah, okay, I don't love you, really. I wanted to see Jack every single time you're here. I'm not sure why. Like, lately, she's been showing up more often than Jack. Let's keep on going. 59 over there. Once again, slight drop into the 50s. Bobby's not here. That's probably why this is dropping into the 50s, guys. We can't kill him. We can't restore the balance in the world. He's probably just optimizing the grass in GTA at this moment. Let's quickly check it out with 4x MSAA in the grassy area, by the way. Alright, so again, it will still go up to the 180s and stuff with these settings. So it will stutter if you don't lock your FPS, but of course, in grassy areas, it won't reach that high of an FPS mark or number. Oh, there we go! It's Bob and Mark, I guess. Hello! Goodbye! As you can see, right now, you can expect down into the 100. So if you lock the FPS to 144, like I was saying, you will get those 144 FPS locked all of the time in the city areas, but in grassy areas like these with a lot of bushes and vegetation, it will still drop down a little bit, okay? And with all of that said, that's it for 1080p resolution, the adequate resolution for a 4060 Ti according to Nvidia. And let's bump it up to 1440p. Here we go, guys. 2560 by 1440 is now the resolution. I'm keeping the MSAA set to 4x because if you disable it, it will still go up to 188 frames per second. This should be more similar to what we saw with 8x MSAA at 1080p. Actually, maybe slightly less intensive at the moment. It's looking really good here. Wow, like the jump from 1080p to 1440p is definitely worth it here in GTA 5. If you're playing less intensive titles with a 4060 Ti or like 3060 Ti as well, 1440p monitors are so cheap these days that I think it's worth upgrading if you're running a 1080p one. At these settings, it gets around 120 frames, which is really good on average with 1% lows at 89 at the moment. But of course, as soon as we get to an area with a lot of grass, it will start dropping. Like over here, we got a bit more vegetation around us, and it's already dropping down into the lower 100s instead of getting 120s. So basically, the city area is going to be the least intensive one here in GTA 5. Also, if you play online, the casino area, I heard, is very, very intensive, but I'm focusing in single player because online is way more CPU bound, and you'll likely have a CPU bottleneck. And as you can see, it actually dips down into the 70s at times, but not from 70. So this is definitely a bit less intensive than what we saw at 1080p with 8x MSAA. And you know what? If you're playing at 1440p, I think I would choose these settings. These look fantastic. Again, 4x MSAA is actually maybe a bit too much for 1440p resolution. You don't need that much to have a clean image without aliasing and stuff. I think 2x MSAA is probably the sweet spot between performance and graphics at this res. But you know what? With 69 FPS on the 1% lows, you should use 4x MSAA. Ooh, I want your car. I want your car. Thank you very much. Nice hat, by the way. I like it. Okay, and nice shoes. What? High heels? Okay, were you driving with high heels? I can't even imagine doing that. It must be so hard. Impressive lady right there, you know? Okay, anyway, let's keep on going. Okay, this car is actually quite a lot faster than the previous one that we had. Let's go to Jack's Hill right now with 4x MSAA. I like how I already know all of the roads here in GTA 5, at least in this area, you know. I know how to get to Jack. It's like all roads lead to Rome, but here in GTA 5, all roads lead to Jack's Hill, my friends. And that is beautiful. That is absolutely amazing. Look at that, 80s. Damn, also... Goodbye, Bob. Oh, there we go. Goodbye, Bob. Rex, you're safe. You're free to go, my friend. Go live your life properly without Bob being annoying to you. Okay, I really like the lens flares today, my friends. I haven't noticed that the lens flares were so good here in GTA 5 using these settings. All right, anyway... dropping into the 60s sometimes. 1% lows are at 65. Yeah, it didn't drop that far because we were getting like 69 FPS minimum, and the 1% lows dropped to 64 there. But yeah, it's going to be a 60 plus FPS experience all of the time, which is amazing. Hello, Jacqueline. Please call Jack. Tell him that I want him to be here in this video. Surprisingly, it doesn't drop. I was really thinking that it would drop from 60 FPS with 4x MSAA at 1440p. This is 78% higher of a resolution than 1080p after all, very intensive compared to 1080p. But no, it is very, very easy. Now, what if you want a little bit higher FPS? Can you do 2x MSAA? I hear you ask. Well, yes, I can do 2x MSAA, my friends. Here we go. So we're getting 150s, sometimes up to 160. And in some situations, I think it will likely go up to like 170 and stuff like that, especially if you're like looking at the sky or looking at the ground and stuff. Yeah, look at that, 188 frames per second. So there is the possibility with these settings to achieve those 188 FPS and make the game stutter. There we go. There we go. Okay, so 2x MSA at 1440p with the RTX 4060 Ti is still a bit too low for the card, which is absolutely insane. But again, that's a very easy fix. All you need to do is lock your FPS or just increase the settings a little bit, the MSAA. Anyway, with 2x, it doesn't really seem to be dropping by too much, only into like the 90s and stuff like that, even inside of all of these bushes. So that's good to see. It's going to be a higher refresh rate experience throughout the gameplay and in pretty much every area. Just make sure, once again, to lock your FPS. Hello, Jack. How's it going, buddy? I missed you. Back? What the hell was that? You know what? I'll take it as... What is this? 4060 Ti? I'm going away. I don't like this GPU. If you have a 4060 Ti, it's not a bad card, okay? It's just badly priced, and it's a bad upgrade over the last generation. Anyway, this is it for 1440p. If we disable the MSAA, it will be a crappy experience because it's always at 188 frames, so it's gonna stutter quite a lot. And there's also a lot of aliasing in this game if you disable anti-aliasing, so yeah, better keep it on 2x or 4x in my opinion. So let's keep MSAA off now, and let's go up to 4K this time. Oh boy, look at that, dropping down into the 60s already, to 69. Oh, this is gonna be intensive at 4K. Damn, I wonder if the 3060 Ti did a little bit better than this at 4K res. I think so, actually. I think it averaged 100 FPS, maybe 90 to 100. I'm not sure. It was a very long time ago when I tested that card, but again, with the 256-bit memory bus, it sometimes can surpass the performance of the 3060 Ti at the 4K resolution, which is kind of insane. And the 40 series also don't do as well in GTA 5 as the 30 series do, so that could be also why we're seeing that behavior. Anyway, around here, up into the high 90s at times, not bad at all. And of course, in Jack's Hill, things are about to drop. I just hope they don't drop from 60. And okay, 60 is what we're getting here. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be dropping from 60 too often, at least. 59 right there. Little bit of an overclock on this GPU, and it will stay above 60 100% of the time at 4K in GTA 5. There's Jacqueline again. Jacqueline, do you like the 4060 Ti? She said Not really. That's why she's running away, okay? You know what? I feel like I'm being a bit too mean for the 4060 Ti, honestly. It's not a terrible GPU, once again. It's just not well priced at all, basically. So in Jax Hill, it did dip slightly into the mid-50s, but honestly, I would still play with these settings. I wouldn't really lower them down to like high shadows or something like that, and a little bit lower settings overall to achieve those 60 plus 100% of the time, because it's not worth it. The game looks absolutely fantastic here for a 2015 title or 2013 title, depending on how you look at it. It looks really, really good with the very high settings, my custom settings right here, and I totally recommend you to utilize them at any resolution. Like, if you want maximum settings at 1080p, of course, it will be able to do that. But again, it's not a matter of it being demanding at maximum settings, it's just a matter of diminishing returns and it actually looking worse with the post-effects setting set to like high or very high or ultra. So yeah, why use that if it looks worse? In my opinion, it does look worse. Some people out there say that it looks a little bit better, you know. Dude, that's not a mountain bike. What are you doing here with a BMX? Seriously? Yeah, go away. Alright, I'm gonna stop it right there, and now things will get ugly. Or actually, maybe very beautiful. Because we're about to play at the 8K resolution. Oh boy, so this is where the 16GB RTX 4060 Ti would actually make a big difference, because we are heavily running out of VRAM at this point. It already swapped some things that should be on VRAM into the RAM. That's why the RAM usage is at 15GB at the moment. The VRAM allocation is maxed out as well, but the usage is around like 5.7 gigabytes, but as you can see, it just keeps going down and up like that because it's maxing out, swapping things, and this is the end result. 2 frames per second, guys. Absolutely terrible of an experience, but at this point, it's kind of expected with an 8GB GPU. You know, it's 8K res. It's basically 4 times the pixel density as 4K. So what I'm going to do to alleviate this is set the texture quality to normal, set these to the minimum right here, and set everything else to the high settings, okay? So I'm just going to keep things on high here. Soft shadows, this one, don't care. Let's use like 4 times anisotropic filtering. That doesn't really matter, honestly, but yeah. These are the new settings. I'm just going to restart the game now, and it's probably going to be playable like this. All right, well, that's not amazing, 30 FPS, but it is playable compared to what we saw previously, right? VRAM is way lower this time around because normal textures are being utilized and they look pretty crappy even at 8K, as you can see on the road especially. Oh boy, it is rough. Unfortunately, you can't really play at 8K with decent quality textures, which defeats the whole purpose of 8K resolution in the first place, you know? It's just crap. Still, this is just for fun, guys. At this point, obviously no one is going to play at 8K, even with like a faster GPU, like a 4070 Super and stuff. Maybe people with 4090s and 4080s, 4080 Supers might be playing at 8K, but there are very few people anyways. Now, since it's dropping down to like the 30s at times and low 30s, since the 1% lows is at 30 FPS, it's probably going to dip down from 30 frames in Jax Hill, especially because we still got that grass quality set to high. That's a bit unfortunate, but again, I'm not mad at all at this performance. It's 8K after all. 24, dropping down to cinematic frame rates, unfortunately. But it is very, very intensive once again, and it's decent that we can still experience the 8K visuals or the crispiness of 8K with a 4060 Ti. So if you're curious about trying this out, if you have an 8K TV as well and you want to see all of that pixel density and so on, it's going to be fantastic, and you can actually do it and play the game, sort of. Just avoid grassy areas, basically. And with that said, that's been it for this one. Thanks very much for watching the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next one very soon. As always, love you all. Bye-bye.